turn this on real quick. So we're going to wait a couple minutes before we get started because I know some people are registering on it right now because they're probably clicking the link for the first time since
Yes,
they're
yes, yes.
new to using the technology.
Yeah.
But exactly what you're saying where, you know, there's clients that are kind of in that waiting mode. We're going to be talking about that for sure because there's definitely, you know, there's always clients that are interested in buying and so, or selling, and we want to make sure that we, you know, talk through those as well. But there's definitely some that are getting nervous, and on those, we want to create clarity around whether the reason that they're getting nervous is going to be a condition or an objection, and I'll talk about that as well.
Yes.
So I'll cover it. Welcome, James. I see that you just joined us as well. We'll probably wait about 2 minutes, and then I'm going to go ahead and get started right away. And that way we can get into the material. Does everyone have the book or at least the PDF now?
I need to, yeah, I will get it. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I did on the link that I send out, there should be a couple different ways you can get it. So if you don't have the book yet, no worries, James. I see you don't have mic or camera. That's not a problem. There is a chat function. So I will keep the chat up. And that way, if anybody needs to drop in any questions, you're more than welcome to drop in questions there as well. But in terms of the book, if you do not have it yet, because I know some of you got it, if you haven't emailed me or gotten it from email, I do have the PDF copy. So you guys can definitely listen to it digitally. If you want, I know it's available on Audible as well. Although even if you're listening to it on Audible, I highly recommend at least having the PDF copy as well, because there's going to be some graphs and things that are in here that we're going to reference. And then the last piece is going to be in addition to that graph piece, we're also going to have, there's the physical copy. Now this book usually retails, I want to say on Audible, I think it's $35. If you go to kellerinc.com, they are selling the physical book for only $5, right? Gary really believes that everybody should have this book. So that's if you want the physical copy, that's definitely a great way to get it. And awesome. So I see people are jumping on now. I want to make sure that I respect your time and get through as much of the material as possible. So, you know, if you're having lunch right now, I get it, because we fit in things on our schedules, right, the way that it works. But I want to go ahead and introduce myself. I know we have a lot of guests on as well, so I'm really excited to have you guys joining us. My name is Monica Rivera. I'm the team leader for Keller Williams, Southeast Los Angeles, located in Downey, next to Portos, who I hear is taking orders at the door, or Collins, right? I will say this, I'm missing my Portos coffee. I dug out my Folgers this morning so that I could at least have a little bit of that normalcy going on. And, you know, I get it. Right now is a really interesting time for us, right? We're working from home. We're in a time where we're not really sure what to do. And to be completely honest with you guys, when it comes to a shifting market, and just for those of you guys that are on, how many of you have been in the industry during a shifting market before? Or were around the 2008, 2009 shift? Okay, so I see a couple hands up, and then I'm guessing that the rest of you might be a little bit newer in the business. Now, I'll give you some insight. So I actually got started not as a licensed agent. My dad got his real estate license in 2007, which was right before the shift in the market. And during that time when the market kind of fell a little bit, we were actually going to home auctions. So we were doing the front of the lawn home auctions, and that's how I started learning about the industry. Now that's not something people learn overnight, right? My dad has been an investor for many, many years, from, you know, just buying properties from as long as I can remember. And so he had experienced shifts in the market on the investor side. In fact, I will never forget, you know, when the stock markets crashed back in the 90s, and, you know, my family definitely got hit hard on that. And so all of those things were a learning experience, and it caused him as an investor to diversify his portfolio. And so when we got around to that 2007 time frame, we were on the other end where 2007, 2008, we were able to take advantage of the market as it stood. And so my dad was somebody who really understood the market of the moment, right? Which is one of the things that we're going to be talking about. And I think what's really important to take out of that is there are always individuals that want to buy, and there are always individuals that want to sell, right? It's just going to be dependent on what's going on. Now, our goal at the end of the day is that we need to be able to respond to the market as it is. We need to know what tactics we need to be putting in place so that we can really continue to drive our business forward, and so that we continue to come from a place of contribution. So we are going to be covering some stuff in the shift book, and we're going to be covering today pages 1 through 48. So if you have the shift book in front of you, I will give you the pages that we're on so that we can kind of start there, and then we'll jump into some of the other pieces as well. I'm actually going to start right on page 7, right? On page 7, it talks about real estate as a cyclical business. Okay, what does that mean? So if we've been in real estate for a couple of years, then what we know to be true right now is that we call real estate generally on an average year, it's seasonal, right? We have what we call seasonality. So we know that there's certain periods of the year, especially here in California, where we have more sales, and there's certain periods of time when the sales diminish a little bit, right? And usually that's our first quarter of the year, and our fourth quarter of the year tend to be when sales are decreasing a little bit. Why is that? Right? Does anybody have a guess onto why sales tend to decrease on the fourth and first quarter? What holidays do we have?
Thanksgiving, Christmas time, it slows down.
Yeah, exactly. Right. We have a lot of holidays that are happening. And so, you know, when we're experiencing whether during the months before the fourth quarter, maybe families are home and they're doing some of that summer months. So while the sales are increasing, the activities are decreasing a little bit, right? And that results in most agents, except in your vacation markets, the fourth and the first quarter, transactions tend to decrease a little bit because our activities go down, right? Because our activities go down. Once we hit the second quarter, now we're getting the results of all of a sudden what happens January 1st. We're like, hey, January 1st, I'm super committed to my goals. I'm out there lead generating. I'm doing all my New Year's calls, right? And those results, real estate is a 90-day cycle. So those results we tend to experience that in the second quarter. So we're used to shifting markets, and this is no different, right? What we look at right now is we're just in a bigger shift, right? We're in a bigger shift in the market. And one of the things that's going to be really interesting about that is if you haven't heard of the law of equilibrium, I want to share a little bit about why it can feel very high pressure right now, but also where the opportunity is for those of you that really truly choose to be the career realtors. So if we look at the shift that happened in 2008 and 2009, that was really where we saw a shift. And yet that started in about 2005. Right? In 2005 was actually the height of the market, and 6.3 million homes sold in 2005. Right? 6.3 million homes sold in 2005. And yet realtors were still getting in the market because you have a certain number of real estate agents, and what happens? Transactions go up and people get really excited about this career. And what happened in 2005? Real estate seemed really easy for those of you that were around because everybody was buying homes.
Bueno.
Right?
I'm
going to go ahead and mute you, Alberto,
no.
quickly. There we go. So everyone was buying homes during that time, right? Everybody was able to qualify for a mortgage. And so realtors, everybody started becoming real estate agents, right? And we saw people getting into the business because it was like, oh my gosh, there's so much money to be made here. Everybody starts getting into the business. And yet in 2004, in 2006, we started to see a decrease, right? We started to see a decrease, almost 1 million less homes that started being sold over the next couple of years. And it wasn't until 2006, a year later, that we're with less homes being sold, right? I wanna establish that less homes being sold. And yet we had 1.3 million realtors. It was the peak of realtors at the time, right? Got into the market in 2006, right? So all of a sudden you have the market start to shift a little bit, and yet realtors keep going in. And you can see that graph in the book as well, right? And that's what happens with the law of equilibrium. Now we go into what was one of the worst years. So 2008, 2009 was actually not the worst year. The worst year after the shift in market was 2010, where only 4.3 million homes sold. 4.3 million homes sold in 2010. And in the worst month, it seemed as though we were on pace for about 3.5 million. But here's the thing. What is the reason that we felt a lot of tension in those years immediately following the shift? One, home sales did not stop. There was just less of them, right? But we feel that tension because there's still a lot of real estate agents that are in the market. So there's still that competition because homes start to go down and the realtors, the amount of realtors getting into the business is still going up, right? And that's what's happening right now. The low point for real estate agents, when we started seeing that decrease of agents, the lowest point was actually not until 2012. So you have 2010 being the worst sales year with only 4.3 million homes sold. And yet the least amount of agents in the real estate business was not until 2012. So why am I sharing that with you? I think that that's really important to have an understanding of how that law of equilibrium works in the real estate industry, because we're looking at the anatomy of a shift right now and what we're in. And we're wondering, why are we going to feel a bit more of that tension right now, right? And where is the opportunity? Well, we're going to feel a little bit of tension right now because there's a lot of competition out there, right? There's a lot of agents that are in the business. And this is really the opportunity where the agents that are career realtors, which those of you that are here, right, you're pouring into your education, you're learning the skill sets that you need in order to thrive during a shifting market. Those are the realtors that survive. In fact, those are the realtors that not only survive, you thrive in a market like this, right? You thrive in a market like this. And I think that's really important for us to understand, because we're still having a lot of agents that have been getting into the business. And while home sales are up, what's going to happen? Well, no, I am very, very, very adamant about not resorting to discounting right now as an agent. Why? It's because this is the industry where if you start to compete on price, there will always be someone willing to go out of business faster than you are. There will always be someone willing to go out of business faster than you, right? Right now is where we need to be extremely skill-based real estate agents, because who's going to thrive in a market where we have complications? Well, it's the ones that can solve the problems, right? So as an example, I've been on the phone with different agents all day that are maybe having some challenges with some of the transactions that they have right now, because what's happening, we said this before we started the call, is some buyers and sellers out there are feeling a little bit nervous, right? And we really want to have that understanding of, do we have the skill set in order to solve the problems or the objections that they have and come up with creative solutions, right? And if we don't, how am I going to get those skill sets? Right. So I want to jump back into the material, but I want, and that chart of what I just spoke about, it doesn't go over the years. So I'll make sure I post the recording in the group. But on page 14, you can see that chart where it talks about the available income or the number of transactions and real estate agents that are getting into the business. But I actually want to jump into the tactics themselves. So I'm jumping over to the first tactic, which is tactic 1. Get real, get right, getting your mindset into action. Now I want to share, when markets like this happen, Gary Keller says there are 3 types of people who emerge when a market shifts. This is on page 24. First, those that fearfully predict the worst and are unnecessarily pessimistic. Second, those who hopefully wish for the best, believe they can't fail, and are unrealistically positive. And third, those who respect the fact that they might fail, actively prepare for the worst, and strive for the best. These are the resourcefully realistic and always the timely triumphant. So what does that mean? Well, right now, we're seeing a lot of media out there, unfortunately, that can be very, very negative, right? They can be very, very negative. It's very pessimistic. One, I highly recommend that if you haven't already, that you create a routine to get your morning started off to a good start that does not include listening to the news for 3 hours, right? I get that we need to know what's going on, and we don't want to inundate ourselves with too much negativity right now, right? We want to make sure that we're looking for the positive. So there's going to be those individuals that are overwhelmingly negative and they think this is doomsday, right? And I acknowledge and I understand that there's a lot going on, and I acknowledge and understand, you know, and this is not to make light of the situation right now, because I think it's very important for us to do our due diligence as realtors, as just as human beings, to protect the communities that are at risk out there. And we don't want to give in to that negativity. And on the flip side of that, you have the overly positive person, right? And that overly positive person is the one who thinks that everything's going to be exactly the same. You know, we're going to get past this and everything's going to be completely normal. And I'm here to tell you that's not the case, right? We are in a shift that we've been waiting for it for about 2 years, because this shift actually came late, right? This shift came late. But we're in a shift, right? We've been expecting it. We've been waiting for it. We've been preparing for it, and it's here, right? And the market is changing. And so the overly positive person, they're going to overly, you know, positive themselves out of the business. And we don't want to be that person either, right? We don't want to be that person either. What I'm hoping is that those of you that are on this call today, that part of the reason you're here listening is because you fall into that third category, right? That third category that is preparing, you know, is hoping for the best and yet is preparing for the worst, right? And what does that look like? That means we really need to make sure when it comes to our activities that we're working on our skills and that we're working on increasing our activities. Now, there's a line in here, and Jay Papasan, who is one of the co-authors of this book, it's on page 24 above the section I just said, it says, success is never about the chosen few, but always about the few that choose. And so right now, what I really urge for each of you is that we choose to continue to succeed, right? We choose to do what is necessary to make sure that we are increasing our business, because right now it's about making sure that our mindset is in the correct place, right? Our mindset is one of I'm going to do what it takes to make sure that I not only survive, but I thrive in this industry, because this is my chosen career, right? Because I'm a career agent. And if you choose that way and you implement and you put things into action, then I promise you that there is huge opportunity that's available right now in this market. Just like there was an opportunity back in 2008. And I'm going to note, guys, I'm going to give you a fun movie to watch if you haven't seen it already, right? I'm hoping that as realtors, you guys have seen this yet. If you haven't, that's okay. I want, it might be on Netflix or Amazon Prime because we're cutting expenses, right, guys? The Big Short. I highly recommend watching The Big Short. It's a great analysis of what happened back in 07 and 08, right? It's a really good analysis of what happened the last time we were in the market during a shift. And so I think that and it's also really entertaining. There's some great actors in it, right? It's a great movie. But it's good for us to have an understanding of what happened, because we need to know how this time is different, right? We need to have an understanding of how this time is different from what happened last time, right? And so I think that's really important for us. Before I move on into tactic 2 on remargining your business, any questions so far? Good? Okay, no worries. You guys are more than welcome to drop anything into the chat. And then I think that's going to be the best way, or if you want to come off mute, you're able to do that as well. So we're going to jump over to page 29, tactic 2 of shift. And that tactic is remargining your business expense management, right? And I'm going to read a little bit, and then I'm going to go through some questions that I think are really important for us. To shift is to change. Second paragraph from the top. To shift is to change. The market changes, therefore you must change with it. With your thinking right and your role clear, you must immediately identify the other effective business changes your current circumstances require. The first one is the only one that can get you back to profitability the fastest: cutting costs. The number one determinant of thriving is lead generation, but the number one determinant of surviving is expense management. So what does that mean? So I'm going to give you guys an example. We started foreseeing what was going on from a shift perspective maybe about 3 weeks ago when everything started going down. So we've been anticipating that, you know, we were probably going to get a safer at home order. We were watching what was happening on a national basis, and we've been pre-ready for what happens during a shift, right? A shift in the market. And so when it came to expense management, what did we do? Well, as an office, we actually pulled out our profit and loss statement, and we walked through every single line item on our profit and loss statement. And I'm going to encourage you to do this as well, because I'll note, as an office, we know there's certain things that we cannot eliminate, right? What did we do? On Zoom, we went and bought a more expensive Zoom account, right? Because we knew we were going to need it so that we can continue education. However, what is an expense that we could immediately eliminate? Well, lunch and learns. Sorry guys, no lunch on Zoom. We can't deliver food, you know, to you, but that's a line item in our budget, in our profit and loss statement that we usually, I see Tapatio. Somebody pulled out the Tapatio bottle right now, Miss Claudia. But we're not necessarily providing, you know, and you've got your lunch, I love it. But we're not necessarily, you know, having that expense right now. So that was immediately something that we could deduct. What did we do? Half of our vendors, we called many of our vendors for things like our copy machines, right? Our printing, things that we knew were going to decrease, and we negotiated. Subscription services that we have that we negotiated. And I'll note, I have services that we provide to our associates. We have one that they've given us a 3-month, they're continuing service with 3 months of no bill, right? That they're doing it complimentary. Why? Because they still want to be in business with us, right? But we went through and remargined the expenses. And I'll note, without decreasing the service that we're able to offer, when I say we decreased our expenses to the tune of about $12,000 per month so far. So far, right? That's huge. So what did I do? Well, I did the same thing with my bills, guys. We don't know what market we're going into right now. So what did I do over the past couple of weekends? Well, I called every single credit card company, any of my debts and liabilities. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to be able to pay them, but I want the option to be able to remove specifically, and this is one of the things that I'm going to advise you on, specifically, even if you can make the payment right now, might it not be helpful if you could waive any interest? Might it not be helpful if you could waive any interest? Well, so long as you're using the right language, mention, you know, coronavirus, safer at home, ask for deferment, ask for a waiver on your interest and deferments of payment. And I guarantee you that many of the vendors that you work with are set up to do that right now, right? They understand, they want to maintain being in business with you. So I'm going to have you write down 3 questions that you should be asking as you go through every single line item of your expenses. And I'll note, if you have a profit and loss statement, this is going to be a lot easier. If you don't have a profit and loss statement, I hope you have a printer. And I'm going to tell you, print out your bank statements for any account that you have. Grab 2 highlighters, a green highlighter, and we don't have red highlighters, so you could do, you know, a yellow highlighter and I have my 3, they're in my book right now, but I have my pink highlighter, my green highlighter, and my yellow highlighter. And I want you to walk through each expense that you have, and you're going to say, 1, how specifically does this cost bring me a return? How specifically does this cost bring me a return? So I'll give you an example that I worked through with somebody else who had an office expense, right? They hired a cleaning crew that was coming in, and their cleaning crew was coming in, you know, weekly or monthly or whatever it might be. And so right now that they're not in the office, they may not necessarily need daily cleaning, right? So it's time to, we know that it gives a return on a date when someone's in the office, but it might not give a return when you're not in office. So that was immediately one element here, right? Is that specifically right now, this particular item may not be giving me a return. So I may need to look at this expense, right? The second question, Do I absolutely need to have this expense? Right? Do I absolutely need to have this expense? And the third question, what can I do to get it down to zero? So I'll know I have expenses that we absolutely need to have at an office basis, right? There are certain things that we cannot just remove, right? There are certain things that we need to have. And what do? We contact those vendors and we negotiated things down, right? And we're able to negotiate it down to zero. Or we got creative and looked at things like how could we potentially partner with somebody? So I'll know if it meets all three criteria, highlighted in green, that means you're giving it the green light that that's okay. That expense is fine. If it does not meet it, specifically, I don't need it, I don't, it doesn't give me a return on investment and I don't need this, I can eliminate it. We're gonna highlight those ones in pink and we're gonna pretend this is red, right? Those are our expenses to eliminate. And then the ones that are kind of that we're not sure, those are gonna go in yellow, right? We wanna note those in yellow because I wanna see, is this something that I can negotiate down maybe? Is this something that, maybe I don't need it right now, but I'm gonna need it. So I wanna be creative around this, right? But we wanna make sure that we're looking at those things. And why am I recommending this? Because here's the thing, when we go into any type of shift, people who have been through it before, what do we always say? That people think they're gonna know when it comes and then it comes suddenly, right? It comes all at once. And the thing is, guys, we're here. We're in it. There's no, this is not happening, is regardless, this will pass and everything around the coronavirus is going to pass, and yet there's still going to be the after effects or the aftershocks. And this is still propelling us into a different market. And so even though we know that this is going to pass, we also want to be prepared, right? To make sure that we're clear on what some of these what some of this looks like, right? We want to be clear on that. So that's going to be remargining our expenses. Any questions so far? I see one in terms of Supra. So in terms of Supra keys, I'll note that it's going to be something that you would need to negotiate with the Supra provider, right? I have now I don't have my own Supra keys right now, so I have not necessarily called to negotiate on that behalf, but there's a couple options there, right? One, technically right now we're in terms of accessing the Supra, that's gonna be something that would definitely need to be negotiated. Now, in terms of actually having Supra boxes, some people I know are putting combination boxes as a way to cut expenses, right? As a way to cut expenses. So that's really going to be up to you. Any other questions on remargining? Claudia, I see your hand up. Do you want to unmute yourself? Let me see if I can. I just unmuted you.
Thank you.
Yes.
On the subject of lock boxes, you also want to incorporate that expense because as we go into a shifting market, a lot of our colleagues are not able to afford their dues. So on the listing side, we have to implement that as well. So before, if you didn't have both, now you're probably going to need both.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great point, right? Is that and I'll tell you this. I mean, I remember back in 2007, most of the properties we accessed in 2007, 2008 were on combination boxes. When I got into the industry, my dad gifted me a box full of combo lock boxes, right? That he had. I used all his old signs, his old A-frames and his old H-frames and a box of his combination lock boxes. So definitely that's a great point. Thank you so much, Claudia. Any more questions on expenses before we get into tactic 3? Okay, awesome. So tactic 3. Tactic 3 is about doing more with less. This is about creating leverage in our business, right? This is about creating leverage in our business. Now, I want to start with page 38 because this is also going to go into a little bit on our mindset, right? Page 38 at the top, it says skip any fault finding, finger pointing, or blaming and go straight to a new vision for your business, right? Right now is the time that we move quickly. Back to the basics. And I'll note, I was joking about this with someone because we were talking about, when we're teaching the basics And a lot of times agents or individuals will say, well, why are we covering the basics, right? Why are we covering the basics when you know, I want to cover the things that are I want to cover the more interesting things. And so we were joking that instead of calling it the basics, we should call it the fundamentals, right? We're not talking about the basics, we're talking about the fundamentals, right? So we're going back to the fundamentals. Don't let change throw you for a loop. Once you know what you must accomplish and you know what your margin can be, you must envision and promote a positive future, right? There's an old saying in sports, if you want to stay ahead, then play like you're behind. So what does that mean? So we have 6 core competencies of running our real estate business. And this, I'll know, this applies to a lot of different businesses. It just, you know, might interchange it in case we have anybody that's watching this that is in a different industry. But the 6 core competencies of a business. Number 1, lead generate, capture, and convert appointments. So what does that look like right now? If you were doing 10 contacts a day, 10 conversations a day, minimum right now should be 20 conversations a day, and I recommend 40, right? Minimum should be 20 conversations a day, and I recommend 40, right? I recommend 40. Now you can work up to that, and I'll note, right now is a great time to have a conversation because the conversation is easier than it's ever been. I'm gonna tell you exactly how it goes. It's, hi, so-and-so, I wanted to see how you're doing. We're talking forward script, right? Family, friends, occupation, recreation, and dreams. How's your family doing? How's your family doing right now, right? How's work going? Are you working from home? How are things going? You know, what have you been doing to relax? That's recreation. And dreams, you know, where would you like to be a year from now or once we get through this, right? We want to make sure that we're touching base on each of those elements because right now is the time to pour value into our database. What do you need? What is keeping you up at night right now? I'll give you an example. There was an agent who was calling through his database and he was talking to the client on the phone and he could tell that there was something wrong. He could hear it in her voice, right? He could hear it in her voice. And so he asked her and he said, you know, I can tell something's going on, you know, what can I help you with? Where can I be of service? And she said, I'm so overwhelmed. I just need to be able to buy paper towels or toilet paper right now. Right. And he said, I completely understand. He said, you know, I just went by an office supply store and they still had some. Instead of going to the market, I highly recommend stopping by an office supply store and seeing what they might have, right? And this was probably about a week ago. Before this is also in an area that not everything was completely shut down yet, right? But he asked that question to her, and he could hear it on the phone, the sigh of relief, and oh my God, that's an amazing idea. Thank you so much, right? Thank you so much. And you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, I actually have an investment property that we might be looking at selling, right? And yet the initial conversation, of course, she knew that was a real estate agent, but the initial conversation was not about real estate, right? We talk about being the local economist of choice, right? Being your local expert of choice. And a lot of times that means we're talking about the numbers that we know, you know, how many homes are on the market, that we know how many sales are going on, and we still want to be able to provide that data, right? We still want to be able to provide that information, but sometimes being the local expert of choice means knowing where your database can go get the things they need, right? Especially right now. I had somebody that their biggest thing that they were looking for was baby wipes, right? They were looking for baby wipes. And the recommendation, and this was before the full shutdown with somebody that I was talking to, I recommended that they stop by TJ Maxx to see what they had in the kids section, and they were able to find what they needed, right? And that builds instant rapport with that person because you're coming from a place of care. If you've had call reluctance before, right now is the easiest time to make those calls because people want the connection and they need the resources. You know, there's another person that's using a script that literally they're sending a text message, right? They send a text message that says, hey, this is so-and-so. I just wanted to go ahead and reach out to see if I might be able to be a resource for you. When do you have some time to connect? And he's gotten so many replies of people saying, yes, I'd be happy to connect. And when he gets on the phone with them, they're like, so how can you be a resource for me? And he goes, I don't know yet. Tell me what you need. What do you need help with right now? And now he's got people that are asking him not just about real estate, but other things. And he's building a relationship of goodwill, of value. And guess what? Those people are not seeing themselves as, oh, this guy only sees me as a transaction. This person values me and values our relationship, right? And then of course, if they do have, things that they're wanting to do from a sales side, then we want to make sure that we're converting those as well. Because there are still people that are going to have questions about buying and selling, right? There's people that want to take advantage of the interest rates. There's people that are going to need to sell, right? The market changes every single day, and our job is to be of value. And if you are not calling your people, then I encourage you to change the perspective that you have of it being sales oriented and think about, who are you preventing from getting your help that needs it right now? Who needs you and you're not calling them right now, right? Because they lost their job and they don't know what to do and they need information, right? Because whatever's happening and they need help, they need information, they need support. And then remember that we want to be able to talk to the market of the moment. So you want to have some information that's available, buyers who may be asking about interest rates, buyers who may be asking, can they still get pre-approval right now, right? What information do you have on that? Homeowners that maybe need some reprieve on paying their mortgage right now. Do you have information for them on mortgage reprieve? Do you have information for them on some of the, I'll note, guys, even what we just went through, the 3 questions that they should be asking on every expense and going through their bills, might that not be helpful for some of your clients that need to cut down on their own expenses? Has nothing to do with real estate, but you're pouring value into them and they will remember that, right? So 6 core competencies. We started with lead generate, capture, and convert to appointments. And you can definitely do Zoom appointments, right? Or online appointments. I will note, if you have a free version of Zoom, it is limited to 40 minutes, but you can also use Google Meets. You can use a lot of different platforms. So whatever is most comfortable for you, you can definitely use those pieces of technology. Presenting to buyers and sellers and getting agreements. So what does that look like right now, right? We have buyers that maybe are interested in putting offers on homes that they can't see. How do we do that? Well, we want to make sure that we're including contingencies similar to how things happened back in 08. We need to be creative about it. So we're adding contingencies or language into the offer that maybe says something like subject to interior inspection. Or we want to add the COVID addendum, the new COVID addendum that was released. I want to be very clear on the COVID addendum. The seller is not required to accept or sign the COVID addendum. That is not an addendum that is mandatory for the contract. It is optional. And like most of the forms that CAR puts out, it is designed to protect your buyer. It's designed to protect the buyer. We've known that CAR, the residential purchase agreement, California is a very buyer favorable state, right? So that addendum is meant specifically for the buyer. And you can talk to your buyers that are still interested in putting offers on the home, but are maybe a little bit nervous, right? That's an objection, that they're nervous about what's going on in the market, that they're a little scared, but nothing has actually happened for them specifically yet. Then that might be some of the ways to deal with that aspect of it, right? You also have people that have to sell, but we want to make sure that we're advising our sellers that when we're looking at pricing and we're doing our CMAs, that we are pricing in a falling market. What does that mean? We've been in a market that it was very easy. If the comps were at 500, we could be like, yeah, I could price your home at 515. It'll sell itself because the market was going up. That doesn't exist anymore. Right now, prices are falling. So I don't care if the comps say 500, I want to price that property in the fours, right? Because we're pricing in a falling market. So we want to make sure that we're talking to our sellers about that, or those that we have that are pending. We're getting sellers that are like, well, I don't want to extend, with this buyer because the buyer maybe needs an extension because of what's going on. The seller is saying, well, I don't want to extend. I want to accept a different offer. I want to put it back on the market because I don't think this buyer is going to come through. And they don't realize that any offers they get 30 days from now, are probably going to be less than what they have in escrow right now, which is why it's so important for any of your pending deals. We want to be extremely creative about how we're handling that. We had one agent that one of the things we advised her on, she had that situation. She was representing the buyer. The seller wanted to, the buyer is on hold on their job. They're not laid off, but they are on hold. And so they asked for an extension to close escrow. And the seller didn't want to do the extension unless they forfeit their EMD, right? So what do? We talked to them and said, look, what if we talk to the listing agent, and sometimes you have to coach the other agent, especially if the other agent hasn't been in a shifting market or is not a problem solver, then we need to coach the other agent, right? But they were coaching the other agent to say, hey, why don't you talk to your seller? Say, why don't we create an addendum? You can go ahead and put the property back on the market. We'll be in first position. If you get another offer and you want to move forward on it, then we have a 12-hour window from when you get that other offer to either release our EMD and move forward, match the price and move forward, right? Or cancel. And that way what happens, the seller gets a win because they get to put their property back on the market and they think maybe get some more offers, but in reality, what's going to happen when nobody's seen their home, so they're probably not getting any other offers, and they're definitely, I'm pretty sure, not getting higher offers, right? And yet our buyer maintains first position and doesn't forfeit their EMD. So we want to create win-win, creative win-win scenarios, right? Creative win-win scenarios. So presenting to buyers and sellers and getting agreements. Showing buyers and market sellers is part of the 6 core competencies. And I know we're very limited on that right now. You're an independent contractor, so I don't want to advise you on what to do there. I'm just going to note what California, I refer to what Car Legal has said, which is they recommend not only no face-to-face showings, but not going into properties, even if they're vacant, because your insurance will not cover if you accidentally get somebody else sick, right? So that's my disclaimer. And homeowners and sellers can definitely do videos, right? Homeowners and sellers can go in and do the videos. And so if you're a listing agent, you want to work around that how you choose to, but I would definitely, homeowners and sellers can do that. I'll note I know I have some of our agents on the line as well. We are looking to see if we can get a waiver of liability if your homeowner or agent on the other side chooses to only make it an option for clients to go into the property, right? So I will keep you posted on that. And then 4, writing and negotiating contracts, 6 core competencies. So writing and negotiating contracts. And we just talked about negotiating in depth, right? That's one of the core competencies we want to get very skilled at. Coordinating the sale to closing. Coordinating the sale to closing. I'll post a resource a little bit later that's from the Pivot Shift material, which is a open to close checklist specific for Shift. So I'll make sure to post that. And then last, the 6 core competencies, manage the money. So lead generate, capture, convert to appointments, present to buyers and sellers and get agreements, show buyers and market sellers, write and negotiate contracts, coordinate the sale to closing, and manage the money. Those are the 6 core competencies that we want to get very, very good at. On top of that, we talk about people. On page 39, people begins with you. So before you look at others, take an honest look at yourself. Are you maximizing your own productivity? Are you doing what matters most? Are you doing what you get paid to do? As we said in Tactic 1, the role you play in your business is critical now more than ever. So we want to make sure that we're really looking at ourselves. And then if you have a team, we look at our team second. All right, we look at our team second. But are you maximizing at the event the things that you need to be doing in order to really drive your business forward, right? To drive your business forward. How many of you on the call have teams or have assistants or anything that works under you? I know we have a couple. Okay, awesome. So the other piece that I want to make sure is really important for those of you that have teams or have anyone that works under you, or if you work on a team. On page 42, there's going to be the 7 steps to a talent shift, right? And this is really important with the market. So 1, we need to get right with ourselves, right? We need to get real, get right with ourselves, know that we're doubling down and we're doing the things that need to be done to move forward in the business, right? And then on page 42, we want to look at how we're working with our team. So we want to re-look at our vision. Sit down with your people and share your vision. Tell them the truth about the situation, where the business is today and where you see it going. And I'll know, guys, I'm not going to tell you guys to do anything that we haven't done. So what did we do? 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, we met with our team as an executive leadership team to talk about what was happening and what this was going to look like. And then what did we do? We recorded videos for you guys, so you guys knew what was going on, right? So that we could share the vision of getting through this. And so I want you to sit with your team, your agents, and tell them that. Number 2, visit with each person to see if they're with you and they're willing to do whatever it takes. You may have people that decide that maybe they're not a right fit for the team as we go through this type of market and as the team vision changes, right? And so you want to make sure you're having that conversation. Number 3, realign job descriptions around the 6 core competencies, the ones we just talked about that must get done. You might even consider moving away from job descriptions to task descriptions. In this way, your key tasks can be mixed and matched, cross-trained, and swapped without changing titles or compensation. Seek flexibility and avoid rigidity. I'll give you an example of what we're doing as a team. My team, we do a twice daily, my executive leadership team, we do a twice daily Zoom call where we go over what we're working on that day. And each of us have not just a job description, we now have a task list of what needs to get done within that day, right? Around our competencies for running a business. And so that's what you should be doing with your team. And I highly recommend you guys, I think it's extremely important that you do Zoom versus doing that as a conference call, because you need to have the connection with your people, especially if you're not in person. They need to be able to see you, right? They need to feel plugged in. And we know that video has been proven to activate the same parts of our brain that seeing each other in person does, right? So we want to make sure that you're meeting with your team on video. Number 4, set easy to measure goals, standards, and activities for each person. Be positive and clearly communicate what needs to happen. Then expect results or resignations. You'll accept either, right? You'll accept either. And I know that one feels a little bit harsh, right? I know that can feel a little bit harsh, but at the end of the day, we need to, if you're a leader of a team, you need to maintain that positivity for your team, right? And it can be difficult, right? It can be difficult. We all have days where we're a little challenged, and we want to make sure that we're that voice, and we're also transparent with our team. It's okay to tell your team when you're frustrated, right? As long as you're not speaking at people and you're having a conversation with them, right? You want to have that conversation with your team. And you want to make sure that they're easy to measure goals. So did we achieve these metrics? For real estate, this is great because it could be, metrics based on the number of conversations we're having, the number of people we added into our database and set up on Smart Plan campaigns, right? And follow-up tasks, the number of text messages that I sent out, the number of emails that each person sent out, right? How many conversations did they have? Those are, if you're doing things, we talked about this on yesterday's morning call, which we were talking about some of the key performance indicators. Did I post content that was going to edify me to my audience today? That may be a key performance metric, right? Whatever those are for you and whatever they are for your team, what are those things? Are you having a minimum? Everybody on my team has to have 20 conversations every day. What does that look like? And here's the big part. I love the conversations. The notes have to be updated. The notes have to be updated. You have to have them set up on the drip campaigns, right? That's extremely important. Number 5, establish a simple training schedule to make sure everyone knows what to do, how to do it, and what is expected of them. Training not only builds competence, but also confidence and positive expectations. So what does that training calendar look like for you, right? You want to make sure you have that in place for your team. And leverage, we talked about leverage was one of the tactics, leverage into some of the training that they should be on. Are you requiring your team to be on the 9 a.m. call so they have a quick way to get their mental self right for the day, right? What trainings are happening already that they should be on? Number 6, meet weekly with each individual to evaluate their success and reach agreement on any corrective action. Don't make the mistake of believing that once changes are made, everyone is on board. You must inspect what you expect, touch base regularly to check in and see how they're really doing. This is really important. Meet weekly with your team, each person. And you need to be really open and create a space for them to be vulnerable and transparent, because energy can be really tight right now, right? We're on a place where it's very easy. As much as the virus is contagious, energy is contagious, which is why it's important that we put ourselves in a positive environment, right? Is because that energy is contagious. And so if you feel it in a meeting that you're having with somebody on your team and you feel their energy is low, ask, dig a little bit, because you want to make sure that you're really inspecting what you expect, right? And then the last one, number 7, celebrate small victories as well as the big ones. Celebrate the individual wins as well as the team successes. So I'll know, guys, one of the things that I was celebrating was the fact that I finally felt really good about my schedule. I was like, yes, this feels good, right? I'm celebrating. We got to celebrate little things, the little wins, right? We want to make sure we're celebrating that. So that's going to be really important. And then the last piece that I wanted to touch on, any questions on that piece yet? No, I don't see anybody's hands up. Okay, the last piece on this section, I want to jump to page 46, where we talk about systems. You top grade your people and you upgrade your systems. Now that you know what you need to do, when you need to do it, and who you have doing it, it's time to tackle your systems and how things are done. Good times usually plant seeds of system inefficiencies that during tough times sprout into choking weeds of ineffectiveness. We want to do more with less, and that means we need to make our approaches to things simpler. So what does that mean? That's a big one right there, guys. So if you guys have heard me before, you've heard me talk about how we need 3 things to be able to run a business. 1, we need the model, right? The model. Whether that's the economic model, whether that's our budget model, whether that's our organizational model, or the most important one in our business, whether that's the lead generation model, right? The initial most important one for our business. We need the model and the system. Number 2, we need the piece of technology that's going to help us to leverage that model, right? And traditionally, those were the box of index cards on the desk that I know my dad used to have, the old school Rolodex and his file of folders, so he knew who he was talking to, and his yellow notepad, right? Sorry guys, that's not the most effective way to do it anymore. Now we need to have the technology that's gonna help us create the leverage. So for your CRM, right? We're also wanting to diminish expenses. So having a ton of extra systems, like 5 different systems out there, is not really going to be what's beneficial. We need to have the one system that's going to help us to do that. So I know some of you that are on, I definitely recommend make sure that you guys are on those command calls where we're going over that tool, because that's going to be really important now more than ever to adopt the technology, right? But you need the piece of technology, and you want to make sure you're upgrading that and you're really learning it and you're mastering it, because right now is that time to do it. And then the third thing you need is the person who's going to turn the system through the technology, right? So 3 things that we need to run an effective business: the model, the piece of technology to help us run the model, and the person that's actually going to do it, right? And we really need to make sure that we're upgrading and we're mastering that right now, because that's part of our skill set. So that covers let me make sure that I got through all the sections that I wanted to make sure to get through for this one. What we just covered was pages 1 through 48. Before I assign the next set of pages that we're going to go over for next week, I'd love to open it up for questions, questions that you have, or any ahas that you guys got. And I'm going to, I can't see you guys all, so you may have to unmute yourselves, or let me try to unmute you guys. 1 second. Oh, what did I do? You guys might be, any questions or ahas that you want to share that you got, or what are you going to implement?
Monica, this is Esther.
Hi, Esther. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. I have a question, because of all the principles that I've made, people are still anxious about you know, making a decision whether to, you know, of the house that they have seen, or I've offered to send the video and stuff like that, but they're still anxious about making a decision to buy at this time. And I just wanted to hear from somebody else that has had that experience and how their clients are really responding to that.
Does anybody wanna comment on that before I jump in? No worries. Well, I'll touch on that because I've been talking to agents, you know, every day right now, Esther. And one, you're not the only one, right? You're not the only one. And
I'm sorry?
you're not the only one.
Oh,
Right? It is right. And I'm going to be sharing the script that's from the Pivot Power session. That's called the Just Not Now script.
okay.
Right? I'll put that in the group to walk you through that. But what is really important about it is what I want you to understand about the time frame that we're in right now. The majority of your people are not necessarily, they're not going to move forward right now.
Right.
We're not. You're going to find some that are, right? You're going to find some that are, and the more calls we make, the more we're going to come across those. I think we have a little bit of feedback in the back, so I'm going to mute everybody real quick, and then I'm going to unmute you guys. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we are going to find some that they are ready to go, and so we want to be prepared for those. I am going to share the Just Not Now script, but what I want to really pour in right now is that the seeds that we're planting right now with our database is to build value and to set them up for the future, right? So as we're calling right now, it's not most of the people, they're worried about their jobs. They're worried about things that are going on. And we want to find the ones that are ready, willing, and motivated, right? We want to find the ones that are ready, willing, and motivated and work on those. And it's going to take us a lot more conversations than it usually would to find the ones that are ready, willing, and motivated, which is why I'm recommending between 20 to 40 contacts a day, right? Because it's going to take us twice as much effort to find those people that are ready to go. And the people that we get right now, here's going to be the biggest thing. So those that have heard me talk about lead generation before, you know that I hate the idea of cold calling just to find the person that wants to sell right now and then moving on to the next one and ignoring all the people that said they're not interested right now.
Right.
I hate it. I think that's getting lucky, right? When you call somebody and they say, I want to buy or sell right now, that you just happen to be in the right place at the right time. And yes, you can do business that way. It's a little bit more transactional, and it's the law of numbers. You call enough people, you're going to find somebody that's ready to go, right?
Okay.
And if you ignore everybody else that you talk to, you're going to lose future opportunity, because where do we know we get a higher return on investment? So I know that in a standard database during a standard market in a farm, for every 50 homes, somebody is going to sell. I know that to be true. That's been proven. There's been studies done on that, right? And yet I know that in my database, 1 out of every 12, if they're on a correct system, if we have them on the correct lead generation model, right, 36 touch or more touches, then I know generally for every 12 people, 1 either has the potential to sell or to give me a referral. I don't know about you guys, but I'd much rather get more deals from people that I know than less deals from the people I don't know and are going to take me longer to market with, right, and to talk to. So
Right.
Esther, the reason that I bring that up is because it's really important right now as you make these calls, you don't get demotivated by the people that are not ready to go right now, because that is going to be most of your people right now.
Yes. Yeah, because I have mostly buyers, so yeah.
And 2, you want to deepen the relationship and get them in your database and set them up on campaigns. So I want you to make sure they're set up on a bi-weekly neighborhood nurture. They're set up on a quarterly call campaign, right? Set them up on the birthday plan. You want to make sure that they're set up so that they get those touches, and then you're just going to note them, and you'll send them information periodically about buying, and then go find the next ones and build more people. Because what's going to happen, Esther, is that we talked about, what happened at the beginning of the call, if you were on, we talked about how the market changed and that time frame. What ends up happening is if you build that relationship now And if you build your database big enough now, and you truly build those relationships, then when we get to the point where the market's ready to go and those people are ready to go, who are they calling? They're calling the person that was there for them, that provided them resources, who cares about them, who they know, like, and trust.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Very long-winded answer to that question.
It's okay.
I have you guys, let me unmute you guys again. Okay, awesome. Any other questions, or I would love to hear some ahas that you guys got from the session? Claudia? I think you're muted again. Let me find you.
I got it. First of all, I want to thank you for holding this meeting. I was looking forward to it. And I mean, everything that we've just gone over it's like the fundamentals and the guidance that we need right now. And even with some of us seasoned agents,
paperwork on the other items, slowly add them, but
technology, guys. Go ahead, Claudia.
so even with a seasoned agent like me, like we're all in different places in our careers, right? So I know and I'm skilled to handle a shift, but I wasn't skilled to, I'm just looking at 7 steps to talent shift. So for me, that's crucial. Last market shift, I really wish that somebody would have gone over this stuff with me. And so we're very, very lucky, George. I could hear George making noise in the background. We're very, very lucky to be having this class right now. I say if you do anything, like if you are not in the mood for anything else, this is, in my opinion, this is where you need to be. You should be in as much activity as possible. But I'm guilty. At times I don't feel like it. I'm totally guilty of it. And anybody that knows me knows that I'm very transparent. So thank you very much, because I am going to, I've been looking at my phone because I have the pages as you're going through. But I'm going to go ahead and print these pages and go over them. I did do the expenses, but I just wanted to share with everybody else. Go over it again, because I'm going to go over it again and do what you implement. We can attend the class, but we got to implement it. And to me, it was mind-blowing today. And I've listened to this book. But right now, I'm like, okay, go ahead and review it again and apply. So thank you, Monica.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'll note, I've had the book on my desk for months. I had read it many, many moons ago.
Mm-hmm.
And in the past 2 weeks, I've read it 4 times probably. Because we need to, right? We need it right now is when we need it the most. Any other ahas or things that you guys are planning on implementing for your business this week? And then I'm going to give you guys the next pages that we'll go over on Tuesday. I saw, Madhu, I saw your hand go up. Let me figure out how to unmute you. 1 second. Okay, perfect. You're unmuted.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to you for giving such a nice information to all of us. I think it's really going to help us to improve better with our business. But I just have just one curiosity question. Some of the clients I have who are ready to buy, but as you share with us, which is 100% true, that they are in a fear mode, that they are, even if they have like the loan proof, they're almost supposed to buy, but they just think that no, this is not the right time to buy. It's not because, because of this all news around, because they think that because of this effect, the prices will go down drastically, like 2008 or 2009, the market will crash. So they just want to wait, and they keep on calling me and asking me how long it will be and how long should they wait, which I myself don't know. And I say, I don't have a crystal ball, but I just want to motivate them positively that since the interest rate are really low, you should look at this opportunity and just buy this, even if it's gonna go down, it's just gonna be little bit, not a lot, because we live in California where always the properties appreciate a lot. So seller not going to reduce at a point where it is less than what is the value of the price. So what do you think? Is it the correct way for me to
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you
Or,
are doing so far is great, and I'm going to give you a resource that I highly recommend looking into. Leslie Appleton Young is the chief economist for the California Association of Realtors. Leslie Appleton Young, and she actually gave some stats. Let me pull them up of what she anticipates. And given she's an economist, she works with CAR. She is going to give some stats. Let me find them. Where did I know I saved it on my phone. She gives some stats of what she's anticipating happening in the market. They're in I'm pulling it up right now. That I think are really important. So she gave a forecast, I want to say last week, about what she's anticipating happening and what that's going to look like in California as well, right? Because she
can
did
you
it.
email me that information?
Yeah. So what
Can you-
she, yeah, and I'm going to say it right now so that you guys have it as well.
Oh,
So
okay.
the stat that she gave was she said that she believes that over the next 12 months, we're going to see a 35% reduction in all sales, right? In all sales. But
Mhm.
over time, now it's going to be an 8% decrease in California sales.
Oh, okay.
Not a lot, right, guys? That's not
Yeah.
a lot. An 8% decrease. I mean, it is a lot in the bigger scheme of things, but it's not so crazy. Now, immediately in the short term, they're anticipating a 36% decrease in short-term sales. So that's right now, the market we're in right now. But when overall, when we look at 12 months, they're anticipating about 8%. Now, here's the other thing she said. They're anticipating only a 6% decrease in value.
Yeah, see, so it's not a lot.
Yeah, and this is the chief economist. So here's the thing, Madhu, is that a lot of times when it comes to our clients, I want to know, we say this, that they don't want to listen to the prophet in their own backyard, right? They need to hear it from somebody else. They need to hear it from somebody else. So your job, well, your job is to be the local expert, the local economist of choice. It's to go and find the information that you can give to them that they need right now. So I agree with you, right? We know that if interest rates go, yeah, prices may go down, but I'd want to know, are your clients trying to sell the property next year? Or are they looking at keeping it for 10 years? Because if they're looking at keeping it for 10 years, you could even show them some historical graphs that show property values going up historically, even through market shifts. I mean, you look at 2008 and what happens? Any of the properties that sold in 2008, they went up in value.
Yes.
And historically, that's what happens in every shift. This is not the first shift. There are definitely some graphs you can show them and you could say, look, now if your client is looking at selling the property in 2 years, then yeah, the answer might be that it's not necessarily the right time to buy.
No, Khali Dalian.
But if they're looking at keeping it, the right time to buy the right house is always.
Yes, that's true. In California. Thank you, Monica.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other questions or if you can also send them in on chat. If not, I'm going once, going twice.
Thank you.
No worries. Sold. Okay, so the next section that we're going to be going over is going to be pages 49 through page 81 of the book. Page 49 through page 81, we're going to be talking. So this one, we covered 3 tactics today. On Tuesday at 1 p.m., we're literally covering 1 tactic. We're only covering lead generation because it's a big one. The big one. So pages 49 through 81, we're going to talk about the 3 action steps, the 2 M's of lead generation, time blocking, and the anatomy of 3 hours a day. And we'll talk about that. But again, that's going to be pages 49 to 81. I will make sure to post the recording. And if you know somebody that might get value out of this, we're in this together. At the end of the day, whether you're the one doing the transaction or somebody on this call is on the other side of the transaction with you, we want to make sure that we have the skills to be able to navigate through the deals that are going on right now. And so it's really important, especially if you're committed to this being your career, then we want to make sure that we're dedicated to those core competencies. And this personal development is part of the way we do that. So I'm hoping that you got value out of today. And then for those that would like to join us, I believe the next thing that we have on the calendar today is happy hour at 5, guys.
Yay! No.
I'll post the link. I'll post this recording in the group as well. And then I do recommend, if you haven't been joining us, if you need a way to get your daily schedule going, we're doing the 9 a.m. check-in class where we're, today we went through a minute with Maxwell. We went through a couple different things, but in the morning, we want to make sure that we're getting our energy right. So I would love to have you join us on that. And if not, I will see the rest of you on Tuesday.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Go lead generate. See ya.